The footage you're about to see was recovered from a laptop found abandoned in a Chicago apartment on March 15, 2024. The tenant had vanished without a trace. What we discovered on that hard drive changed everything we thought we knew about CICADA 3301. My name is irrelevant now. What matters is what we found. And what found us. This is the story of an investigation that began with curiosity and ended with a warning I pray you'll heed. Some mysteries exist not to be solved, but to test whether we're wise enough to walk away. January 4, 2012. An image appears on 4chan's random board. White text on black background. Simple. Innocuous. But this message would launch one of the internet's most enduring mysteries. Hello. We are looking for highly intelligent individuals. To find them, we have devised a test. There is a message hidden in this image. Find it, and it will lead you on the road to finding us. We look forward to meeting the few that will make it all the way through. Good luck. 3301. Within hours, the internet's most brilliant minds were dissecting every pixel. The image contained a hidden message in its metadata. A Caesar cipher that revealed coordinates to a website. But this was just the beginning. What followed was a rabbit hole of cryptographic puzzles spanning multiple countries, ancient texts, obscure musical compositions, and physical locations around the globe. Phone numbers in Texas. QR codes in 14 different countries. Books that appeared in independent bookstores with pages that shouldn't have existed. 3 times CICADA 3301 appeared. 2012, 2014, 2016, each puzzle more complex than the last. Then, silence. For 8 years, conspiracy theorists debated who was behind it. The NSA. MI6. Anonymous. A tech company's recruitment tool. An artist's elaborate hoax. But nobody knew for certain. Until we decided to find out. Our investigation began in September 2023. 3 of us. Sarah, a cryptographer who'd solved puzzles for the State Department. Marcus, a dark web specialist who'd exposed human trafficking networks. And myself. Let's just say I knew how to find people who didn't want to be found. We called ourselves the Locusts, our small tribute to the swarm we were hunting. Our goal was simple: trace CICADA 3301 back to its source. Find the puppet masters behind the greatest puzzle in internet history. We started where everyone starts. The archives. Thousands of forum posts, YouTube videos, blog entries, every theory, every dead end, every breakthrough catalogued and cross-referenced. But then Sarah found something everyone else had missed. Hidden in the metadata of images from the 2016 puzzle were timestamps that didn't match when they were posted. The discrepancies were tiny, seconds, sometimes minutes. But they formed a pattern. When Sarah plotted these timestamp differences on a map, they corresponded to specific coordinates. Not random locations, but places where unsolved missing persons cases had occurred. All involving individuals with backgrounds in mathematics, cryptography, or computer science. The pattern was too precise to be coincidence. Too deliberate to be a game. We'd found our first real lead, but it came with a price. Within 48 hours of Sarah's discovery, she started receiving anonymous messages. Mathematical equations that, when solved, revealed a simple phrase: "Stop looking." Marcus tried to trace the message's origin. The routing was impossible: servers that didn't exist, IP addresses from networks that had been decommissioned years ago. Whoever sent them had resources we couldn't comprehend. That should have been our first warning to walk away. Instead, we went deeper. Marcus guided us through encrypted networks most people have never heard of. Past the surface dark web, into places that required invitation-only access. Markets that traded in information rather than drugs. Forums where discussions happened in mathematical proofs instead of words. And there, in a corner of cyberspace that technically shouldn't exist, we found it. A server cluster designated CICADA_prime. Accessing it required solving a puzzle, not unlike the original CICADA challenges, but more personal. The puzzle knew things about us, our real names, our addresses, our families. It asked questions only we could answer. Sarah's childhood pet's name. The date Marcus' first access tour. The reason I left my last job. When we finally gained access, what we found defied explanation. Terabytes of data. Personal profiles of thousands of individuals worldwide. Academic records, psychological evaluations, financial histories. All people who had attempted to solve CICADA puzzles over the years. But it wasn't just data collection. It was selection criteria. Profiles were ranked, categorized, sorted. Those marked selected had green flags. Most had red flags marked unsuitable. A disturbing number were marked retrieved. The server logs revealed physical coordinates. Locations where selected individuals had been instructed to appear. A warehouse in Tucson. An abandoned office building in Prague. A seemingly empty field in rural Montana. Against every instinct screaming at us to stop, we decided to investigate the Montana location. The field appeared empty, but ground-penetrating radar revealed something disturbing. A concrete structure 8 feet below ground. Fresh excavation marks. And tire tracks from vehicles that had been there recently. We weren't alone in that field. As we worked, we spotted vehicles parked on distant hilltops. Always 3 cars. Always watching. When we attempted to approach, they vanished. That night, in our hotel, Marcus discovered our devices had been compromised. Not hacked, upgraded. Our laptops were processing data we hadn't requested, communicating with servers we'd never accessed. It was as if our investigation had attracted the attention of something vast and interconnected. The final message we received wasn't a threat. It was an invitation. A single image appeared on all our devices simultaneously. The familiar CICADA symbol, but different. Enhanced. More complex. Below it, coordinates to a location in Nevada and a timestamp, 72 hours from when we received it. Final test, the message read. Come alone, or don't come at all. Bring the key. The key. We'd been building it unknowingly throughout our investigation. Every solved puzzle, every access server, every clue we'd uncovered had generated a fragment. Combined, they formed a 2048-bit encryption key that we didn't fully understand. We knew it was a trap. We knew we should have contacted authorities, abandoned the investigation, gone into hiding. But the compulsion to know the truth was stronger than our survival instincts. We drove to Nevada in separate vehicles, meeting at the coordinates as the sun set behind jagged mountains. The location was a nondescript metal door built into a hillside. No markings, no signs. Just a keypad waiting for our combined key. When we entered the code, the door didn't just unlock, it welcomed us. LED strips illuminated a corridor that stretched deep into the earth. The walls were lined with servers, their blinking lights creating patterns that seemed almost hypnotic. At the end of the corridor was a room that defied physics. Larger than the hillside that contained it. Banks of quantum computers processing information at incomprehensible speeds. Holographic displays showing real-time data from around the world. And in the center, a single terminal with a message waiting for us: congratulations. You have demonstrated the intellectual curiosity and problem-solving abilities we require. Welcome to CICADA 3301. Your real test begins now. The terminal displayed profiles of individuals worldwide. Scientists, engineers, mathematicians, all people who had solved previous CICADA puzzles. All people who had vanished from their normal lives. The screen showed their current status: active, in training, deployed. We weren't looking at a recruitment organization. We were looking at something far more ambitious and terrifying: a global network of the world's brightest minds, working on projects that governments didn't know existed. The terminal offered us a choice: join willingly, or leave and forget what we'd seen. But as I reached for the keyboard to make our decision, Sarah grabbed my hand. "Look at the deployment destinations," she whispered. The deployment locations weren't companies or universities. They were coordinates corresponding to major world events. Financial crashes. Political upheavals. Technological breakthroughs that had reshaped society. CICADA 3301 wasn't recruiting puzzle solvers. It was harvesting human intelligence to orchestrate global change. The smartest people in the world, working unknowingly to reshape civilization according to some grand design. And we had just volunteered ourselves to be part of it. The room began to change around us. Walls shifted, revealing additional passages. Security personnel emerged from hidden panels, not threatening, but present. Waiting for our decision. A voice spoke from hidden speakers, neither male nor female, possibly not human at all. Knowledge comes with responsibility. You sought the truth. Now you must decide what to do with it. The terminal displayed two options: accept integration or initiate memory protocol. We understood. Join the network willingly, or have our memories wiped and be returned to our normal lives. But there was a third option the system hadn't considered. Marcus, thinking faster than the rest of us, triggered the emergency data burst he'd programmed into our equipment. Everything we'd discovered, every file we'd accessed, every clue we'd uncovered, transmitted simultaneously to dead drops around the world. The room erupted in alarm signals. What happened next? I can barely remember clearly. Running through corridors that seemed to shift and change. Pursuing voices that echoed from impossible directions. Making it to our vehicles as the hillside itself seemed to come alive with hidden activity. We drove separately, as planned. Met at predetermined locations. But something was wrong. Marcus kept checking his reflection, claiming he looked different. Sarah spoke in mathematical equations when she thought we weren't listening. The memory wipes hadn't been complete, but they'd been attempted. 3 days later, Marcus disappeared, his apartment empty, no trace of where he'd gone. Sarah lasted 2 weeks before I found her wandering downtown, no memory of our investigation, no recognition in her eyes when she looked at me. The data burst Marcus triggered? Most of the files were corrupted, filled with symbols and patterns that hurt to look at directly. Only fragments remain. Pieces of a puzzle I'm no longer certain we should have tried to solve. I'm telling you this story because I may not remember it much longer. The memory gaps are getting larger. Sometimes I catch myself solving puzzles I don't remember starting. Sometimes I wake up in places I don't remember going to. But I remember enough to give you this warning: if you ever encounter anything related to CICADA 3301, walk away. Don't investigate. Don't solve the puzzles. Don't seek the truth. Some knowledge is too dangerous to possess. Some mysteries exist not to be solved, but to identify those foolish enough to try. The cicadas are still singing. They're always singing. And now, I think I'm beginning to understand their song.